Good afternoon. We're here with the John Deere H 1940. It's a hand start, and I've had this tractor for about a year and a half. And what I found is that this flywheel that you use to start it with has it's out of round for one thing, so it wobbles quite a bit, and it has a big crack in here. So I want to show you that crack, and I've decided that that really needs to be replaced. And the danger is that the thing disintegrates while it's running, and I just don't know what the impact of that would be. But you know, this thing could hit the ground running and fly through the crowd and kill somebody, or who knows what. And maybe it wouldn't fly apart at all. Maybe it's not a big deal. But I've become uneasy about it, and I'm just going to replace it. So I've ordered one from a used tractor place back in, I think, Indiana or somewhere, and it should be here in the next week or so. The only downside is that with the shipping on these, because they're real heavy, it's going to cost me about $300 to get another one of these, a used one. And I guess there's no guarantee that it's a good casting, although I've inspected it and talked to the owner of it, and it appears to not have any cracks or any damage whatsoever. So it should be completely serviceable and usable. And let me show you the crack up close, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so here's a close-up of the flywheel, and you can see the crack right here. It starts in this big hole, and I think that's what these big holes are for, is to attract cracks so that they don't go straight in and out that way. But this crack is, I believe, getting wider since I got this tractor. It goes all the way to this bolt, threaded bolt hole here, and then it starts going that direction. So you can see, maybe you can see just how it's continued on past this. So, you know, if this were to connect with that one, you know, I think there'd be a lot less holding this thing together. And I imagine with the weight of this thing, just the stress on all of this as this thing's spinning is pretty impressive. And so I've decided I'm gonna go ahead and replace this with another used casting from another parts tractor or something. So I think I'll take the opportunity when I take this off to put a new seal back in here, a couple of gaskets, because it seems to leak quite a bit, or has leaked over the years. There's an awful lot of grime behind this wheel. So I'm going to be pulling this flywheel and then installing a new one after I put, you know, perhaps after I put some gaskets and seals in there. So I'm going to pull this into the shop this afternoon, and we'll get another look at it inside, and we'll start pulling that thing off. Alright, so I'm in the middle of pulling this flywheel off because it's got a crack in it on the John Deere H, and I've got my crane and I've hooked up a strap to the flywheel. I don't know how much the thing weighs. Some of my buddies were thinking it was 80-90 pounds, so it could be that, or it could be more than that even. So I've got a strap hooked up to it to take the weight, and it's already moving off the shaft, and so I got a puller, but I don't think I'm going to need it. So what I'm going to do is just gently pull this thing off and see if I can get it to slide off, and of course get captured by this strap. So let's see how it goes here. By the way, there's a V on the shaft, stamped into the shaft, and there's a V right over here that corresponds. So you get those two V's together, and that's the placement of the flywheel on the shaft. And I'm just going to make sure that when I get my new flywheel that I line it up just like this. Those V's are exactly. And I understand that one of the teeth here is unique, and so it only goes on one way, I hope. And so we'll find that out here pretty soon. But I'm going to slowly move this off. Again, I don't really know how heavy this thing is. I don't know if it's going to know, swinging around or what, but it's coming right off. Here it comes. Hope nothing breaks here. There it is. All right. So that's the back side of this, you can see. I'm going to clean this up and see if the cracks that I'm seeing are coming through. You can see the size of these nuts on here. They go different directions, but they're 1 1/8. So that's pretty big, and I had a lot of trouble getting, you got to use a universal to get behind this. So that you can get it off. But there it is. I'm excited about that. Let me take a minute here and move this flywheel out of the way, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what's behind it. So you can see the shaft. This is the left side of the crankshaft that goes all the way through the engine. And there looks like there's a seal probably in here, and then a gasket there, probably a gasket here, and back over here. And so what I'm going to do is see about ordering those seals and gaskets, and then look into my manual to see how difficult those are to replace, because you can see there's an awful lot of leakage going on. In fact, if you look down below the crankshaft itself, there looks like there's a stream of oil that's been leaking out of this seal for some time, and that's why that whole side of the engine transmission case is all grody. So I'm going to work on that and get that all going. Also, I just wanted to look down here, see if I can get it. There it is. So that's the inside of the flywheel, and I can zoom in a little bit here, and you can see the bolts that hold that thing together. Can't see them real well, but you can sort of see them there. So there's two bolts. They go opposite directions, and they compress this part of the flywheel itself. Now that's all cast as one part. Interesting, I can see the back side of the crack going right through here. So it was going kind of around this whole mechanism. And I was thinking that this mechanism was absorbing the crack, but it actually is cracking around it, so that's pretty bad. And could have been someone over tightened it. It could have been a flaw. This whole thing seems out of round to me anyway, so maybe it was just a bad casting to start with. That could be. So there's a piece that sticks up right here, and that finds a spot in the inside on the back side of the crank over here, so that helps you get it on there the right way as well. So we're gonna wait around. I'm gonna see if I can get gaskets for this, and then we'll wait and see when my new used flywheel gets here. We'll have this all ready, all cleaned up and ready to go, hopefully, and we'll be able to put it all back together. Let's just look over here one more time. So there's the crank, and I'm not sure where that piece that sticks up goes. I think it goes inside here, but I'm not sure. So I'll do some investigating, make sure we get that back on there correctly. I'm going to try not to spin anything, but it does have the V on it. As long as that V matches up, then that piece that sticks up ought to go on there just fine. So that's where we are. As soon as I get some parts here, we'll get back to this, and in the meantime I'll clean this up and research what we're looking at underneath all this, and get it ready for seals and gaskets, and then ultimately for a new flywheel. All right, so I cleaned up the crankshaft apparatus here on the left side of the tractor that was underneath the flywheel. And again, I turned the flywheel over and cleaned the inside of it a little bit, and the cracks are all the way through, so the cracks are pretty serious, I think. So I'm glad I'm getting a different one. Hopefully it'll get here in the next week and I'll be able to put it on. But in the meantime, I've ordered some gaskets. There's this outer seal retainer, I believe it's called. And I've ordered a gasket for that. And I think one for this big one here. And then one for this, this is an oiler. And somebody told me this piece right here was an aftermarket ad because of an issue of getting oil to a certain spot in the engine. And so I don't know much about it, but it's leaking quite a bit. And this tube is, looks like kind of a brass tube. And it looks like it's pretty bent up. So I'm not sure if it's leaking. If it's not leaking, I'm going to leave it alone. If it's leaking, I might have to replace this entire piece. But we'll see about that. And then this cover over here, I'm not even sure what's on the inside of that, but that needs a new gasket as well because that one's leaking too. So I've kind of done a quick degrease on this so that when I'm handling these I don't get grease all over me. Also drained the oil out of the crankcase. I didn't change the filter or anything, so I'm just going to go with it like it is. I'll just leave the filter in there, but I don't know what's inside here. I'm hoping there's there's supposed to be actually a cork seal right inside of here, and I've ordered a new one of those. And so hopefully, cork seal doesn't seem very robust to me for an application like this, so we'll kind of see. And by the way, the lock washers that are underneath these bolts just have disintegrated and are coming off in pieces as I loosen these bolts. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know why that would be. And I might have some oil coming with this. So I've got a bucket under here just in case. And we'll catch whatever we need to as we slide this off the crankshaft. And I'll replace these lock washers, of course. And these weren't terribly tight. I assume that this has come off before in recent history. And I can't really tell where this thing was leaking, so I'm just going to replace all the gaskets and seals related to all three of these items here. All right, so it's not just flying off of there, so I'm going to have to get some tools and see if I can get in behind it, so I'll be back. All right, I got my rubber hammer because I don't want to wreck anything, and just hit this around a couple times and it broke it loose, so let's see what's in here. I've got a parts list that shows all the gizmos in here. Not much. This is the seal retainer. And I think what in the world? Well, I'm going to have to do some research, but look at this. It's kind of hard to see because of the light, I think, but I don't know if that's scoring or if that was made that way. That could be an oil slinger right there, I suppose. I'm looking for the cork gasket that's supposed to be in there. And, well, I sure don't see it. So I'll get, yeah, let's see, I think. Yeah, everything in here is just metal, so I'll have to do some research to see where that gasket is. Just don't want to get that confused. It could be the rest of this apparatus is part of this part here, and so I think I'll go do a little research on that to see where that cork gasket. I thought it was right out here on the smooth part of this crankshaft here, and I might be looking at the darn thing. I just don't recognize it. That's all metal in there. Okay, well, I'll take, I'm going to go look at my manual and take these 3 bolts off and see if we can get the rest of this off. I'll be back in a little bit. Alright, so I've learned a couple of things about this project. Remember, what I'm doing is replacing the flywheel to this 1940 John Deere H. So I pulled the flywheel off. It almost fell off after loosening the bolts. The reason I'm taking it off is because it's cracked. And so I've ordered another one on eBay. It should be delivered early next week. In the meantime, I thought this was all greasy and oily and dripping. So I thought, you know, I should replace the seal that goes right in here. So I took the seal holder off, and then I started to take this off because there's a gasket under here I assumed was leaking as well. And I couldn't get that part off, and I wondered why it would come out about 1/2 inch and then stop. And so I went in and did some research, and it turns out that there is an oil pipe on the other side of this that feeds this little hole under here, which provides oil to the bearings. So that's the reason that wouldn't come off. To get this off, you have to go in through the top into the crankcase and unhook that pipe, and it has a threaded nut on it. And so rather than do all that, I just quietly put the thing back on, and I put some gasket sealer down under there with a putty knife. And I'm not thrilled with that approach, but I didn't want to get into the crankcase and mess with that oiler and all that. I didn't really need to take that off other than to replace the gasket, which might have been fine anyway. So the one thing I have done though is I've made a gasket for this surface here, and I also ordered some gaskets, and I ordered the cork seal, which that's this little gizmo right here, and that's the seal for this crankshaft on the left side of the block. And it's pretty saturated. It doesn't look like it's in bad shape. It does not look worn terribly. It didn't break. It's not brittle. So it might have been replaced not long ago. But I'm replacing it anyway, and so I'm waiting for that to arrive as well. So I'm not going to put this back together, but I thought what I would do though is put this this back together. Now in here is there's a big bolt and a spline in there, and that gasket was all shot behind this little plate here. There's also, this is part of an oiler system as well. So what I did here was just made a new gasket for this one. I wasn't able to get one of those, and so that gasket's not on its way. So I went ahead and made one. I'm just going to snug this up. And then I think I'm going to leave this piece alone because it doesn't appear to be leaking much. I think most of the leaking was from these 2 devices here. So I'm going to go with that. You can see the shape of the gasket that was under that oiler there. It just disintegrated and came apart, and it's very, very thin. So I'm using some gasket paper that's quite a bit thicker than this, and hopefully that'll result in no leaking. And I also put gasket seal on both sides of that gasket just to make sure that everything is snugged up. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up, and I got to replace a couple of washers in there, lock washers, and there's studs in here, so you're putting nuts on these. And then I'll tighten up this tube connection right here, and I'll be done with this part. And then as soon as I get the cork seal and this gasket, I'm going to put the cover back on to the oil slinger that slings oil around inside here, and also that put the seal on, put the cover on, and then I'll be ready to put the flywheel on when it arrives. And I'm hoping the flywheel's in great shape. It looked like a really nice one. Paid a lot of money for it, and so hopefully it's as presented and is very usable. So that's where we are with this project. I'm gonna run up these nuts and put some washers on and get that finished, and then I'm gonna kind of wait until I get the parts that I've ordered. So I'll be back when all that comes in, and we'll get on with this and finish this up. Oops, sorry about that. Welcome back. We're continuing the replacement of the flywheel and the seal and the gasket for this 1940 John Deere H. And again, we found a crack. I know we've had a crack for quite a while, since I got this tractor about a year ago, in the flywheel, and it seems to be getting bigger. So rather than experience an exploding flywheel at some point, I found another used one somewhere, and it's being shipped to me, which you can imagine is pretty expensive. I think the thing weighs 80 or 90 pounds. But today we're replacing, I got a gasket here that fits over this surface right here. So we're going to clean this up and put this gasket in. And then the other thing, there's a main seal that goes on here and has this interesting kind of a collar. This goes on like this, facing out, and there's a cover that goes over this. And the flywheel actually has a piece of it that fits inside this little hole right here. So in this groove. So we're going to get that all lined up eventually. But inside here, there's a space for a cork seal. Now most of the seals you see in these tractors, especially like the Cub tractor, they're metal seals with a rubber inside with a spring that keeps them secured and in there. This is a cork gasket. So it's just round cork. It goes inside here. This is the old one. And the new one, I assume that the old one is worn quite a bit. It's somewhat smaller. The cork one is quite a bit bigger, seemingly, both thicker this way and this way. And so maybe that's just the nature of a new gasket. So what I'm going to do is coat this with oil and get it kind of prepped, and then I'm going to insert it without breaking it inside this piece right here. Once we get the gasket seated inside here, then we're able to turn it around this way, slide it on here, and then put this other gasket and the cover over the top of that. Then we'll be ready for when the flywheel gets here, and that's supposed to be maybe Thursday of this week. So we're just moving ahead as we can on little pieces of this project. So again, the most difficult thing is not to break this seal. So we're going to try real hard not to. So I'm going to turn the camera off so that if I break it, I won't swear or be embarrassed or anything. But I'll come back and once I have that installed inside that ring. Okay. I have this gasket going in, this cork seal, and there's a ledge inside there. And so you can see by looking at it, hopefully you can see that I'm pushing it up under a lip and trying to get it to get inside the groove all the way around. So I've almost got it. I'm going to just push it in so that it's below the lip where it's supposed to be. And then it's a matter of getting it to engage without tearing it up. I'm just trying to get it in place all the way around. It looks like it's going pretty well. This gasket's, I mean, you can feel it being flush with the inside of this piece here, but it looks like it's not quite evenly pressed in. So I'm just going to go around and press it in and try to get it lined up just so. And that actually looks pretty good. You just sort of got to be patient and not try to cram the thing in there. And that actually looks pretty good. Yep. Okay. So now the step would be to slide it on, and this gasket goes right up against this thing there. And see, now I'm actually engaging the gasket on the in fact, I'm going to put some oil on this. On each of these splines, just so we don't get any to make sure it's lubed up. I just don't want to tear the cork while I'm trying to get it on there. And I don't think there's any correct or incorrect way to lay this thing in there to get it on the spline or on this end of the crankshaft. The real issue will be when we slide the cover over it. Let's see if we can get this to slide on there. There we go. There it is. All right. And what there's actually on the back side of this, there's an oil slinger. Since the diameter of this piece is bigger than the diameter of this, there's a groove on the back side of that I assume there's oil that's down inside of here. It grabs that oil and slings it down inside. The bearings are back in here, but it doesn't let the oil get out this way because that cork gasket is up above the splines there, and it's on a solid piece of the crankshaft, so that should work pretty well, I would guess. And this all looks pretty clean. I'm gonna clean this part up a little bit more before I come back and put it on. It's gonna go about like that, and I'll have to get this gasket on there, so be back in a minute to take care of that part. All right, well, what I've done here is put a little gasket sealer on both sides, both members here, this plate and this one, this cover. And now I'm moving ahead to run these bolts in. There's 3 of them. So let me just see if I can get these started. There goes that one. think that I'm gonna have to go find a lock washer. So, dang, I keep running into the camera, sorry. Alright, I found the lock washer and I got the right socket. I'm just going to run these up. And again, this is all we'll do on this tractor today. Although I suppose I could put the oil back in it because we've got it all. I mean, the only other thing we got to do is put the flywheel on, but that doesn't, of course, interrupt any of the oil gaskets or anything. I'll probably just wait on that though. We'll fill it up once we get. I want to make sure the flywheel has all the right gear on it before we get too far. And I also just want to make sure that I can still move. You got to be able to move this ring to match up, because there's a V right here that matches a V on the flywheel. So you match those two up, and then the little pin has to fit right inside of this or that side. But I've got to make sure that I can still move this. It should be able to move it. And I think what I'll do is just get a drift and tap it and make sure that I can still move that around. Because I got to get it just so in order to get the flywheel on just so and secured on there so that I can tighten the bolts on the inside. Alright, so we'll get to the rest of this. I'm just not going to tighten that up right now. I'm going to just wait, and we'll get back to this tractor as soon as I get my new flywheel. Alright, so back to this John Deere H 1940. I recall that the flywheel that I had was cracked, and the crack was getting bigger, so I spent a lot of money to send away from eBay to get another one. And it came from Indiana or somewhere, I think, and it's been inspected. There are no cracks in this one. And I've got the bolts reinstalled, and I've replaced a gasket in here and a seal in here. So now what we're going to do is line this thing up and see if we can't get this onto the crankshaft here. Now there's a V on the crankshaft right here on the side, and this has not moved since I took that other flywheel off. And there's a V right here, and so those two V's have to line up in order for this flywheel to be on appropriately. So that's what I'm going to do here is I've got it hooked and hanging in such a way that it should slide right on and be lined up from the get-go. So I'm going to see, it looks like we need to drop this slightly. So let me drop it just a little. The thing's pretty heavy. Let's see what that looks like. Oh boy, that's close. I just need to drop it a little more. Let's try that. drop it just a little more, because when I push it over, it doesn't turn appropriately. So let's try it like that. There we go. I need to get a flashlight just so that I can make sure I've got the V lined up. Alright, I'm going to go grab a flashlight. I'll be right back. Okay, we got the V's lined up perfectly and the groove, and then there's a pin on this side that fits into a revolving spinner thing on this side. So I've lined those up. I'm going to let a little bit more out of this, a little slack, so that we can slide this on. A little more. It's going great. A little more slack, sorry. All right, we got the thing on there. That's great. I'm going to move this crane out of the way and then we'll finish this up. All right, so the crane's out of the way, and we're about 3/4 of an inch from having this all the way on. So I'm going to keep wobbling it. We're going to reach a point here where I'm going to have to use a mallet. I think we're there right now, so let me go get some tools for that. So it's going pretty well. I'm using a plastic sledgehammer. And here's the thing, my old crankshaft stuck out maybe 1/16 of an inch beyond the flywheel, and we're just past flush. So in reading the manual thoroughly, this flywheel placement in and out on the shaft, on the crankshaft, deals with the end play. And right now we probably have 1/16 of an inch of end play, and we need a lot less than that. So that means this flywheel has to go on there quite a bit further, maybe another 1/16 of an inch over this shaft. So I was wondering, how in the world am I going to do that when I'm pounding on the flywheel? You know, there's no end shaft, there's no end play because it's all pushed in. Turns out that there are some there's a, I don't even know what to call it, there's a little groove here that allows you to get a hold of a collar around the gear, the crankshaft, and so that'll give me a little bit of leverage. I'm going to use this punch here, and a crowbar actually fits too, but that seemed like it's too big. So I'm going to work it a little bit and see if we can't get the end play solved. It's supposed to be 0.01 inches, so I'm going to work on that and see if I can't get the flywheel further on the shaft in order to take up the end play in the crankshaft. So I didn't realize that that was important, but in looking at the manual it seems to be. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to fiddle with this for a little bit and I'll get back to you when I solve it. Alright, so I've spent some time pounding and prying at the same time. you sort of got to stick a big screwdriver or something in there where you can lean on it and then pound at the same time in order to pull the shaft out enough to push the flywheel over the top of it. And I started off with a lot of play, and now I don't have hardly any play. I can't really figure out how to get my feeler gauge back in there because I can't really see it. So it's difficult to measure whether I've got the appropriate amount of end play. It feels like there's hardly any, so I'm going to go with that. And it's not binding. This thing still turns freely. It's not stuck or anything, rubbing against the crankshaft bearing keeper. So it seems fine. I've tightened the bolts on the inside. That's also very difficult to do. You got to use a 1 1/8 socket, and that's a 1/2 inch drive, but I don't have a swivel or universal joint for that, so I had to use my 3/8 drive, and that didn't really give me enough poo, so I took a few shots at it. I think I have it tight enough, and if you see a flywheel rolling down the road, you'll know that I didn't get it tight enough. So I'm getting ready here to start it. I just put the oil back in it, and so far no dripping, so that's good. I'm going to clear off all these tools, and then well, what the heck, I'm just going to start it right now and see what we've got. I'm interested to see how much it wobbles, if any. The other one wobbled quite a bit, and I always thought it was out of round. All right, so we'll just go through our normal starting routine. Make sure we're in neutral, out of gear, and I got the brakes set. This one I do. That's good. And so there's everything. I've got fuel on, throttle up a little bit. So let's see what we got here. Oh, I gotta hook up the mag. I undid the wires to make sure that I didn't do anything silly. So I marked them top and bottom. So let me put those back in. Be all hooked up now. So I'll give this a turn. Let me just move this back this way a little bit. And let's see. So there it is. I started on the first try. Pretty amazing. Not really though. This tractor just starts. It really does. So that doesn't wobble hardly any compared to the old one. And I'll just keep watching to make sure it's not making its way off of this shaft. In fact, I'll go back and retighten these bolts after a little while. So there it is, a replacement of the flywheel on a 1940 John Deere H. And that was an expensive repair for an old tractor, but it's nice to have that taken care of. All right, thanks for watching.